Hello and welcome to episode 10 of The Last Night's Watch. Now, we're going to be talking about the finale today, and because there's so much to talk about, we don't have any red carpet stuff. It's just going to be me, Catherine and Richard talking about the episode. We do have one special guest though. Hugh Jackman is going to turn up at the end of the show, and we're also going to announce the name of our competition winner. But that's all later. We're going to be chatting about the episode before all that. So, guys, what did you think? What was your favourite moment of the episode?
Favourite moment? I think, well, there were a couple of moments which were, you know, a bit of shock. I was quite shocked to see Stannis arrive.
Yes.
And to see him do something a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
Finally, he's going to be doing something more interesting, I think.
Yeah, because I looked at you when he showed up, because I know you hate the wall and you hate Stannis.
I don't hate the wall. I find the Stannis story quite boring, but now he's there, maybe that's going to push on a bit further. And, you know, obviously the Red Witch, is she called the Red Witch? Maybe I've got that wrong. Yeah. But anyway, she's going to be there with Jon Snow and all that kind of, you know, you could see that something else was forming there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think the big moment was probably Tywin.
Yeah, I think that's probably our what the fuck moment. Yeah, that is.
I wasn't expecting that.
Shocking. I imagine for non-book readers.
Yeah.
Rich, what did you think?
Yeah, well, dying on the loo. What a way to go.
Yeah, it was
with his pants down.
It's weird seeing Charles dance like without dignity. Like he's always so in control.
Because every time you see him, he's sort of very regal and very
That was sort of the point of it, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it was almost sort of like it wasn't. I think it was sort of so shocking because they didn't make a big thing of it. He just sort of shot him, and that, you know.
Yeah, and when he said, you know, I am your son, and then, you know, because he was going to shoot him, and the realisation of that. But I don't know, I was quite surprised. I kind of knew Tyrion was going to get away somehow because, like, I don't think he was actually going to die.
Yeah.
But I was surprised to find Shay in with Tywin, and you wonder how long that had been going on for. Like, had that been all along, or had that just been a new thing?
That was really sad as well. That scene. Like again, I think Peter Dinklage, you know, has been standout this season, but that scene in particular where he sort of finished her off, sort of thing, was really sad. Like, it was really, you know,
it was quite sad.
And a little fact from the book: Tywin's last words in the book are, "Where do whores go?" And Tyrion's kind of a little bit obsessed with what he means by that.
Right.
And so I was kind of waiting for him to say that, and he didn't. So, but you know, they've got to cut some stuff.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
You know. But no, it's good. I mean, it's good that he's got away. But where's he going?
Yeah. Well, there were so many cliffhangers in this episode. I mean, I've got to say, like, it's probably the best finale that we've had on Game of Thrones.
I think
so,
definitely
just by a long way.
Visited pretty much everyone. I think maybe Sansa. Who else wasn't in it? Theon Greyjoy. They're probably the only people who weren't in it.
Yeah. And they all had important stuff to do.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably spent the least amount of time with Khaleesi, with Daenerys. But that moment, I found that moment incredibly powerful.
It was,
Like, when the dragons are practically screaming at her when she's leaving.
Yeah.
Like,
but I
really
couldn't
intense.
work out, is there still a third dragon that's out on the loose?
Yeah, so Drogon,
so they
the
can't,
black one,
they can't find
and he's
it.
kind of like the toughest
Yeah,
one.
he's
So that's the one that was, you know, that was quite horrible with the dead child.
God, that was really moving
as
well. Yeah.
But I thought it was going to be something terrible was going to like jump out from the blank. You know, I thought he was going to be some kind of like mystical person who was going to attack her.
Yeah.
And then when it was like a sort of...
Well, we did see some fighting skeletons. Let's not
Oh
forget
yeah,
that.
fighting skeletons.
Yeah.
That was incredible. I loved that sequence. It was so good. It was
so
sort
cool.
of, it really, you know, that whole story has been sort of not moving too fast for me this season.
Yeah.
But that whole scene was just brilliant. I mean, it was really, you know, there were moments where it was sort of like a horror movie, you know, where the hands were coming up and stuff.
Yeah, no,
and
the hands.
That was
really
cool.
tense, and then it had like the sort of like nice Harryhausen nods to it, and the effects were again, they were great, you know, and it was just a really exciting, pacey action sequence, which, like you said, I think in previous season finales, it sort of felt quite anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Especially coming after episode 9, which is always, you know, something big happens. And this for me felt like it wasn't anticlimactic at all. There were so many bits in it. There was so much to it, and some really nice sort of action sequences as well as the more talkier sequences.
Do we know who those skeletons? What those skeletons are?
I think they're in the sort of same group as the White Walkers.
Okay.
They're just like more.
Are they like people who were dead and then they've come back to life?
Kind of like
because you kind of got the feeling that Jojen was going to get sort of dragged, or did she blow him up?
She blew him up because his eyes started to go.
Yeah, because they were going to make him into.
Now, with regards to her, I'm just interested in this. What do you? Who do you think she is? Like
the child woman thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because absolutely no idea where that's going.
Because in the books, obviously there's a lot more stuff about the religions and all the stuff that they worship, and they're part of a group called the Children of the Forest.
Right.
They're kind of like mythical, and people think that they never existed, and so she sort of popped up. I mean, they'll probably have a bit of exposition next season to explain that, but
quite a big part of season 5.
Did that sort of throw you off balance a bit? Some
no, I
kids
mean you're
throwing giant fireballs. And
you're expecting some weird thing to happen.
Yeah.
So it was more that it was like a kid with like a woman's voice.
Yeah.
That was I found a bit strange, but that story has always been. You always know that was going to sort of a strange place, I think. Yeah. So it wasn't too surprising to see that, I don't think.
I think it was nice as well because they sort of really rounded off that story of them getting to the north, which was this season's sort of arc for them, I guess. Then you had that fantastic sort of action sequence and quite shocking and, you know, the climax of that. But they've, again, set up a load more questions for next season that just makes you want to...
Bran's going to be able to fly.
Just makes you want to, you know, makes a year a long time to wait.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We also the Hound and Brienne. I mean, that was a pretty amazing sequence, wasn't it?
So good, so intense.
Yeah.
She really
when she's like screaming, punching him in the face, it feels like she's punching every person who's ever sort of picked on her or whatever.
But he's another sort of love to hate character, isn't he? And
I love to love him. I love the Hound.
And I don't know. I was surprised that she didn't finish him off. I thought that, you know, she did sort of care about him, and he was trying to, you know, annoy her by saying all those things, but I was surprised that she did just walk away from him in the end.
Arya is such a fascinating character. At this stage in her journey, it feels like she's got quite a lot of cruelty in her. Like we've seen that quite a lot this season, and so it's kind of, she would be doing him a favour to put him out of his misery.
She doesn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's sort of easy to forget because their sort of journey this season has become a bit like a sort of lovable odd couple sort of thing. But it's easy to forget that he has done some horrible things to the Starks, you know. Yeah. And which, you know, he did say in this episode. So
and she sees him as complicit in her father's death.
Exactly.
And you know, he's always been on the list. So.
I was surprised though. I don't know, because they'd built up a kind of relationship, hadn't they? So. But, you know, where's Brienne going now? But, you know, where's Arya going?
Yeah, well, to Braavos.
Oh, she's going to Braavos, But
so
what's she going to do when she gets there?
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of ways they could have ended this episode, going by the books. There's some quite shocking things that they could have done, perfectly justifiably, and that would have had literally everyone on the social media talking. So I think it's quite cool and quite brave of them to end on Arya and sort of a kind of optimistic-y note.
It was quite an optimistic end, wasn't it?
And
she
it
was sailing off.
felt like an end. As well. It wasn't like, you know, there were cliffhangers all through the episode, but it wasn't like one massive cliffhanger.
Yeah, which is kind of annoying.
A nice end to the season, you know.
When you have to wait a year for something.
Exactly.
But yeah, next year is going to be really fascinating because, you know, people obviously can be in different places.
Well, I'm quite interested to see what happens to Arya because she's one of my favourite characters. And,
I think she's an incredible character. She's so fascinating.
Amazing, and I think she's becoming more and more ruthless as the season goes on. And
Maisie Williams is just knocking out the park.
She's just brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. Incredible. She's incredible. And, you know, I sort of feel that the end of this episode is sort of setting up next season. I haven't read the books, but it feels for me like it's setting up what I wanted to happen. I think it was season 2, where she was going around with the assassin guy. And
finally getting back to that story.
Yeah, and I really felt like, you know, I wanted her to go off and learn how to become like him, sort of thing. And I feel that that's sort of where it's going
that's
now.
maybe what she.
So I'm excited.
But who knows?
Oh, spoiler.
But one thing actually I got wrong last week. I said that we wouldn't go back to the wall, and then within 2 seconds, you know, they're doing that page turner thing again, where it carries straight on from the last episode. But I mean, this is going to be great to watch as a box set, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah,
it's going to be like one long film.
That was a good scene, I thought, with
it's fantastic.
Kieran Hines.
He was
and
mesmerising.
Yeah, Jon Snow, just really, you know, it was really well played.
Completely.
And then just as they were about to sort of come to some kind of bargain, and then, you know, when all those horses started to come in, I really was like, who on earth is that? I couldn't work it out at all. I mean, did you know who that was going to be? Do you remember that was going to be Stannis, or did you? No. So and then when it finally was, it was quite good, like I said, to see Stannis actually, you know, the story was moving forward and they're in a different place, and something, the characters are starting to meet each other. You know, that was what was nice about Brienne and the Hound, and everything. They were all finally people were meeting each other. It's like,
it's like plots are now starting to converge.
Yeah, which is what you want, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You want to see the character, you want to see Khaleesi fight. I mean, she still hasn't got there. That's what I said on the first episode. I want to see her get there, and she still hasn't got anywhere. And you want to see her having a sort of a face-off. Although actually you'd wanted to see her having a face-off with Tywin. So actually, you know, now he's out of the equation, you know, it's going to be an interesting development to that whole King story, isn't there? Because he's not there to pull the strings anymore.
Exactly.
So who's going to be doing that?
Yeah,
it's going to be, is Littlefinger going to swoop back in at this point?
Yeah, I mean, there's loads to consider.
Yeah, but, and I think the thing with Stannis as well for me is that since Blackwater, he spent 2 seasons just sort of talking about what he's going to do. Yeah, so it was nice to actually see him back in action again.
Absolutely, you know. And in the book, the siege lasts a lot longer, and so I wondered if they were going to go back to that stuff next season. Because obviously I knew that Stannis was on the way. And I was surprised it didn't happen in the last episode, because it felt like they condensed everything into one big battle rather than it going on.
That whole sort of opening scene, I really liked. You know, I thought the bit between Mance and Jon talking about Ygritte, that was really cool. And even the way the action was shot when he was walking into the forest, that kind of camera work, it was awesome. It sort of reminded me a little bit of. This is a bit of a weird comparison to make, but the first Deathly Hallows film, where they're going through the woods, and it's that real kind of like, you know, sort of jerky camera movements and sort of like almost sort of sped up and hyper real sort of thing, and it really makes you quite tense. What's he going to find in these woods?
But that great shot, I think it was like sort of from the wall perspective of him, tiny Jon Snow walking and through all the dead bodies, and it's just like the tiny figure
crows
walking.
Eating away
that was amazing.
Yeah.
The commenters are either going to love you or hate you from comparing Game of Thrones to Harry Potter. But
the camera work.
Oh, always have to get Harry Potter in there somewhere.
But yeah, I really loved the conversation between Jon and Mance. I loved the bit where they're talking about the giant and
the sort of cheers to him and
he was a king. He was from a farm.
It was really well done.
Sort of sums up Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
in
and
a weird way.
It was a nice sort of.
They both died. They both deserve to be honoured, no matter where they came from.
And you've started to see a lot more sort of Ned Stark traits coming out through Jon Snow as well, which I think is quite nice. You know, you sort of feel like he's going to be with Robb gone. He's
that sequence where he's saying to Stannis, "My father would do this, my father would do that." Yeah, very, very cool. But I guess that's pretty much everything in the finale. But end of the series, what's been your favourite moments from the series as a whole, do you think?
I still think the most shocking, for me, the most powerful bit was the Viper and the Mountain. That whole fight scene, and you're really rooting for the Viper to win, and then that sort of death at the end that you're not expecting to happen. It all happened so quickly, and it was a real not only gory but a real sort of open mouth, like, oh my god, what just happened?
It's one of the real achievements of this season that they set up Prince Oberyn and made you care about him in such a short space of time to make that so shocking.
He was a great character, and it was it was really devastating that it ended like that, because everybody was just like, oh, he's going to win, win. Oh my god, he just had his eyes gouged out. It was the way they did that, I think, was really
very cool,
clever.
And Rich?
Well, mine's sort of opposite to that, going from a character you care about dying. Mine has got to be Joffrey's death. I've spent 3 seasons hating him so much, and I think he played that really well as well. I think he sort of cultivated that a lot. People really sort of, it really felt like a comeuppance and a catharsis in a way. You know,
Absolutely.
it really felt like, and it was, you know, suitably horrible and gory, and the way the last shot was just his face. You know, it was just, it really felt like a, you know, few.
Yeah, but it was quite shocking as well.
It was shocking,
like,
yeah. It was.
And what was it? It was episode 2, wasn't
episode
it?
2, yeah.
So they've really played around like that. That could have been an episode 9er, but they've played around so much with those big moments.
Yeah.
For me, it's actually a small moment. It's in episode 1. It's when the Hound is sort of facing off against the King's men. And he says a line, what is it? If any more words come pouring out of your cunt mouth, I'm going to have to eat every chicken in this place. I just loved it so much. Like, hilarious.
That was a great scene, actually.
So cool. That whole sequence was just so cool.
I'm kind of sad we're not going to see him again. Or are we? I don't know, but I guess we're not.
Yeah.
No, I think he's got to be dead, hasn't he?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to say too much, but
you're in the books.
I am sad too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just a few more things to wrap up. We've chosen our competition winner. Thank you everyone for entering the competition to win the Dragon's Eggs. We've got a lot of entries, but the winner is Toby King. I followed you on Twitter, so if you send us a DM with your address, and we will get the Dragon's Eggs out to you. Thanks very much, man. And yeah, one last thing. We interviewed Hugh Jackman a couple of months ago, and we asked him if he watches Game of Thrones, and here's his answer.
I haven't. I'll tell you why, because I know it's great, and I'm a big TV addict. As a kid, I was a TV addict, and I just don't have time, you know, with family and work. I don't have time to get hooked, so I daren't even watch. I'm literally like an addictive personality with TV, so I don't even watch one episode, because then I'll know what I'm missing out on. So now I just have to assume that I know what I'm missing out on, rather than really knowing.
So yeah, that was Hugh Jackman. Sad he doesn't watch it. I think he's going to like it. I'm sure he'll get to it eventually.
It's got a treat waiting for him.
Yeah,
I'm quite jealous of people who haven't been following it week by week, because I'd kind of like to sit down with a box set of it and go
oh my God,
through
can
it.
you
It's
imagine?
so good.
Especially like when season 4.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, well, that really is it. End of the show, which means end of last night's watch. And like Arya Stark, our future is uncertain, but thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for your comments. Please do comment on this episode. We read all of them, and we enjoy all of them, even the ones where you're criticising us for comparing Game of Thrones to Harry Potter. That was Richard, by the way.
Never going to live that down.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully we'll see you in the future.